The woman in this photo is named Selina Gray. Okay, and this photo was purchased off of eBay in 2014 for $700. I'm about to tell y'all why Selina is such an important person to American history, but first, we gotta go back to the 1800s. So this is Robert E. Lee, all right, Confederate general. Now, if you live in the state of Virginia, honey, they love them some Robert E. Lee. They love them some Bobby Lee. They love this man. This was his wife. Her name was Mariana Custis Lee. Wealthy white woman. Wealthy Southern white woman. That's going to be important. Mariana Custis's great-grandmother was a lady named Martha Washington. Washington, she was married to George Washington. You might be familiar with his work. She came from wealth, like she was very, very wealthy. She grew up on a very large plantation with a lot of slaves, honey. She had hundreds of slaves growing up. When she married Robert E. Lee, they only had like 2 or 3 slaves. 2 or 3 slaves. I don't even know how she functioned. Oh my God. When Mary's dad died, they inherited the family home, the Arlington House, okay? This house was a massive property with hundreds of enslaved people on it. But the thing is, it had been poorly managed. Bobby Lee was trying to find somebody to manage the plantation for him because, you know, he's in the military, but nobody would take the job because it was just like so much work. There was so much going on. Everything was in disarray. So he had to take a 2-year leave of absence from work to come and work this plantation. My ancestors put him through it. They were revolting. They were running away. There's literally news articles about his enslaved people running away. It was so embarrassing because you can't have your slaves running away. One of the main reasons that the enslaved people on this property were so upset, other than the fact that they were slaves, is because they thought that their former master, which would have been Mary's father, was going to free them upon his death. But actually in his will, he had something written in there that it was like they had to wait 5 years to free people. That don't even make no sense. So they were pissed and they were protesting. Literally, they protested on this plantation. Selina was Mary's personal maid, okay? She was a personal maid. And when the Civil War started to pop off, Mary gave Selina the keys to the house and was like, bye, make sure everything stays safe, okay? We'll be back later. On May 24th, 1861, the Union Army occupied Arlington House, and Selina and her family were still living there. The Union Army like low-key looted and ransacked this home, which really upset Selina because she's like, I have to keep this place safe because my masters are coming back. She remembered that there were some very important heirlooms to a very significant person in history. This guy right here, because remember, the Custis family had a direct link to George Washington, and they had possessions that belonged to him. Selina ends up telling a Union officer that there were some very important heirlooms significant to George Washington, and so they kept them for safekeeping, and they actually sent them over to the patent office. Also, remember, it's the Civil War. A lot of people are dying. It got to the point where they did not have enough space to bury people in the available cemeteries in DC and like in Alexandria. So they started to bury people at Arlington House. And the grounds of Arlington House became what we now call Arlington National Cemetery. There's Arlington House right up there at the top. After living at Arlington House for a few years post-Civil War, the family eventually bought a 10-acre land in Green Valley and sold vegetables, living very peacefully. Selina lived a very peaceful, happy life. She died in her mid-80s in 1907. And in the 1920s and 30s, Selina's daughters helped the government restore Arlington House. So that's why it is historically significant. It looks the way that it would have looked when Selina and her family were living there. And someone on eBay found this beautiful woman's photo, purchased it for $700, when you and I know that this photo is actually priceless. It's actually incredibly rare to find a photo of an enslaved person and know who they were. So yeah, that's Selina's story.